Hey YouTube, I'm Mr. Terry, a high school history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher Reacts video. Alright, last month I checked out for the first time Jay Foreman's channel and his Map Men series. And the video did really well, and if I see that happen, I want to do more of that channel. So we're checking out another Map Men video, and the title of this one is Who Owns Antarctica? Alright, well, let's find out the history of that. I'll let you know what I know about Antarctica as well, so definitely stick around. Now, the original video link is down below. Make sure you support Map Men. They've been kind enough to be cool with me checking out their videos and making my commentary, so definitely support them. The video link, again, is down below. Give it a view, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And if you like what we're doing here, you want to see more commentary videos on history topics, then hit that sub button. And if you like this video, that's great too. Hit that thumbs up, and you'll see plenty more. All right, with that, let's get started. All right, I don't know if wearing Viking gear will help me withstand the cold of Antarctica, but I don't know. Maybe it'll help. We'll see.
Today we're asking, who does Antarctica belong to?
Welcome to Map Men.
We're the men?
It's a bit cold just looking at it.
Here's
I'll
the
do it properly.
and here's the map. Map Men, Map Men, Map Men.
Antarctica is the continent you know least about.
When it does have the decency to appear on maps, it tends to be shown as a crinkly white stripe across the bottom.
Or, for those watching in Mercator projection, a massive splodge of white, twice the size of the rest of the world's landmass combined.
Now, we all know, I hope we're to that point. If you are watching my videos, history videos, you know geography. We know maps screw up everything, right? And I remember, let's just be honest, when we were little kids and we saw the flat map and we saw Antarctica stretched out the whole bottom part of the map. Oh, and then we looked up at Greenland, and Greenland was like the size of, well, you can look at the map in the back there. It's like bigger than North America. Okay, we were all dumb for that for a while, but we all understand it's because it's stretched out. Antarctica is much, much, much smaller than that, but it's still a very large continent. I forget exactly where it would rank up. I think it's around the size of Australia, right? Maybe a little bigger. Anyway, let's do this.
So little thought is given to what shape it really, or how big it really is.
Here on a round
This
Earth,
depends on
what
the ice,
Antarctica
too.
really looks like from below. Deciding which way up this map should be is difficult since every direction is north, but most maps have been standardized this way, with 0 degrees longitude going straight up from the South Pole.
During the winter, the sun
Okay,
doesn't rise for
fair
4
enough.
months, and temperatures reach the dizzying lows of minus 60 degrees Celsius, which is the same as minus 60 degrees centigrade.
Surprisingly, it doesn't actually snow a lot. Antarctica is
dry.
one of the driest places on Earth, and
Right.
technically the world's largest desert, as well as looking like the world's largest desert.
So that snow and stuff you're looking at, that's stuff that's been there forever. You know what's interesting too is, Antarctica is not even necessarily like the coldest place at times. I mean, there are places in Siberia that actually end up getting cold, but Antarctica does have that. I was watching something recently about it, and there were temperatures that got to like negative 150 or something. So like it's got some of the coldest stuff. And a lot of that is if you go more towards the central part of the continent, and then it has to have certain weather conditions, specifically like clear skies, because what ends up happening with clear skies is heat when you have clouds, heat gets trapped under the clouds a little bit. So you'd think cloudiness might mean it'd be colder, but that's actually not the case. The heat, when there's no clouds, can actually escape more into the atmosphere. So it's actually on clear days that it's coldest.
It's covered in a 4-kilometer thick sheet of ice, littered with perfectly preserved corpses of generations of dead
Heck yeah,
penguins.
penguinos.
Sounds like an awful place.
It is, but that hasn't stopped people from trying to own it.
No vegetation,
In
no
the late
trees.
19th century, Antarctica was the last bit of the world map yet to be properly filled in. Dozens of brave explorers from Britain, Norway, France, and various other seafaring countries.
Probably get Admiral
also
Byrd,
sailed to the
right?
South
Oh
Pole
my
in
God.
a bid for
There
fame,
must-
glory, fortune, and prizes.
The winners were Norwegians Roald Amundsen and his crew, who, surviving the blistering cold by eating their own dogs, became the first humans ever to reach the South Pole on December 14th, 1911.
So it's interesting. You have Norway, which is like on the exact other side of the globe, that came all the way to the south, right? And explored it, right? Like of all the nations of ones that could have been even closer to the South Pole or more towards the equator. But I always find that interesting that Norway of all the places, but it makes sense. I mean, they have a history of maritime and maritime exploration, but going all the way down to the south and being the first to really kind of map it out. Map men. I always found that fascinating.
They then spent 3 further freezing cold days taking celestial measurements just to make sure they were in the right spot.
Good. I was right. Let's go.
I know they've messed up
Today,
the South
British
Pole a
school
few
children
times.
learn about Amundsen as a small footnote in the story of the much braver British Captain Scott, who reached the pole 33 days after those naughty Norwegians, but at least had the decency to die before he made it home.
Even though Amundsen had done the South Pole, the race to own Antarctica was only just hotting up. Owning more land.
By the way, the whole finding the actual South Pole has been debatable because magnetic north isn't necessarily, or isn't, geographic north. Same happens in the North Pole because of tilt of the Earth, but how just the kind of the magnetism works and how compasses work. So you can see that there's, and sometimes marked like 2 different poles. Again, what's going to show up in your compass and then what's physically actually supposed to be the center.
And increased your chances of finding valuable things like gold, zinc, and uranium, which Antarctica had lots of.
And so Norway, France, and especially Britain claimed they owned the bits of coastline where their early explorers had planted flags.
With no locals to say otherwise, these claims stretched all the way to the South Pole like Trivial Pursuit wedges. Apart from Norway, who, content with being the first to reach the pole, were content with not pretending to own it.
Faced with a blank
Wait, did the
canvas,
Norwegian? I don't know this. Did it
Content with being
not
the
go
first to reach
all the way to the pole itself? Now that's interesting. Now the poles have been talked about a lot more as, you know, with like global warming and things, that if more land becomes accessible, that will make places like Antarctica or Greenland more enticing for nations, and people fear that, you know, as that happens, it'll become more competitive, because right now it's just it'd be so much work to go into somewhere like Antarctica or Greenland and do a lot of operations there. But with Antarctica being mutually split like this, you know, people are nervous about that. That especially because they're saying there's natural resources there in the form of mining. And again, as more of that land becomes accessible, then there'll be more enticing, you know, things for that. So it's gonna have to be something that's probably gonna have to continue to be addressed, even though you have the Antarctic Treaty in there right now that kind of bans any economic activity or military activity there.
the pole were content with not pretending to own it.
Faced with a blank canvas, colonists were allowed to be as inventive as they liked in coming up with the names for their new Antarctic colonies.
Oh, what are they?
Fairyland, King Edward VII Plateau,
Oh.
Princess Elizabeth Land, Queen Maud Land, Graham Land.
But British domination wouldn't like.
Stop just naming everything after monarchs. Come on. I mean, what are they going to do? If you name it something else, are they going to kill you or something? Come on, it doesn't have to be like that. We need cool, inventive names.
When Australia and New Zealand got their independence, they also
Iceland.
inherited the wedges near.
Why is there not a penguin land? Okay, like we need something that does that. Hoth. Let's name it Hoth.
Nearest their coastline that they've been taking care of for the British, and they've continued to hold on to them since.
At one point, a small portion of Antarctica was claimed by Nazi Germany, who in 1939 flew over dropping massive darts with swastikas on them. Historians today consider this to be in the top 10 least important things to happen during World War II.
Wait. We always have to read lists.
Historians today
Let's do
consider
this.
this to be in the top 10 least important things to happen during World War II.
Okay, least important things to happen during World War II. We'll go from 10 to 1. 10. General Montgomery names pet dog Rommel. Here we go. Monty Montgomery named it Rommel. That's some sign of respect. Actually, didn't know that. Number 9, British Army changes the color of its webbing from khaki to khaki drab. Okay. Number 8, the vending machine is restocked in Pearl Harbor the day before the attack. I think that's pretty important, all right? I mean, you have to keep it stacked. Doesn't matter, stocked. Doesn't matter if it's about to get attacked. 7, Heinrich Himmler sets the Nazi Party record for number of over-trick points in a bridge game. I hope that's true. 6, Winston Churchill eats a pear. 5, hamburgers are named Liberty Steaks in the U.S. to sound less German. That is absolutely true. Hamburgers, yep, Liberty Steaks. And then they just wanted everything to sound more American. So you get like freedom fries. Sauerkraut, because that's German, became like Liberty Cabbage or something like that. It's so dorky. 4, Ava Braun buys a purple hat. Okay, seems like it. She was fancy gal. Number 3, Nazis make special stamps for French troops. You know. Number 2, Argentina declares war on Germany, like it would matter. But hey, so many Germans went to, like surviving Nazis went to Argentina after the war. And then number 1, Nazis claim a small portion of Antarctica. Great.
Perhaps the oddest
I will add
thing
that
is
to my
from
World War
Chile
II
and
lessons.
Argentina, who in the middle of the 20th century suddenly remembered that they already owned Antarctica before it was even discovered.
In the 1400s,
They didn't even know.
when Spain and Portugal were colonizing South America, they made a deal to split the continent
Antarctica
between
needs to
them
be
a
in-
dead straight
in risk.
vertical line.
And because South America
Okay, line
hadn't
of
been fully
demarcation.
explored in those days, the deal made no mention of where the line stopped.
Centuries later, with
Well, that would mean that Portugal would get Spain and Portugal would get it. Now, the line of demarcation right here was a line that the Pope set in the late 1400s, because after Columbus, you had exploration efforts, going on, and actually before that too, between the Portuguese and the Spanish, and there was claims, by both the countries, and to avoid, conflict, warfare, and stuff like that, they appealed to the Pope, as both nations were Christian nations, and they kind of said, "Hey, Pope, we're all Christians. Why don't you set up and decide this land claim once and for all?" So they split it right there. One reason why it's not just the whole continent for South America, to Spain, was that the Portuguese already had some settlements on the coast of Brazil, that they had come to, surprisingly, some of it by accident, because once you cross the equator going south, the ocean currents change and blow from east to west. So you can, if you think you're going like cutting through the middle of the ocean or something, like you're going around the southern tip of Africa, you end up getting blown westward. And that actually happened in Portugal. But anyway, for the most part, the country's stuck to that line where Portugal will, yes, they will continue to work with what's say Brazil, but then focus more on Africa and Asia, and the Spanish largely in the West, right here in South America. And there is an exception for Spain across that line in a way too, is that they also had the Philippines after Ferdinand Magellan's voyage, and the Spanish went and claimed there. So it's like each got like an exception to kind of the Western Eastern Hemisphere rule with that. But anyway, I never thought about this, how this would affect Antarctica.
Fully explored in those days, the deal made no mention of where the line stopped.
Centuries later, with Antarctica now discovered,
But
the
they didn't-
Spanish colonies
they
of
didn't even know
Argentina
about
and
it
Chile
then, though.
politely suggested that the line might end at the South Pole, meaning these bits of Antarctica would technically belong to them, specifically the bits directly south of their own borders, which meant their claims slightly overlapped each other's and massively overlapped Britain's.
The only wedge of Antarctica not
Go to
claimed
war.
by
We
any
need a war
nation was this
over it.
section here, Marie Byrd Land, remote and hard to get to even by Antarctican standards.
You're talking about
making it
Admiral
the
Byrd?
largest expanse of land on the planet not claimed by anyone.
And that's how we got to this
Yeah,
colourful...
hopefully they do it. Yeah, it's Admiral Byrd. He's the guy that actually did significant exploration of Antarctica itself, and talked about how big it was and all that.
Geographic confusion today.
Overlapping territory, rival disputes. Exactly what sort of exciting dramatic consequences did this have?
None.
Good.
Britain didn't seem to mind overlapping territory with Chile and/or Argentina. It simply ignored them and continued pretending to own the place. Chile and Argentina returned the favour by simply ignoring Britain.
This was all fine and hilarious, and none of it mattered until...
It's the Cold War. Almost every conflict around the world is in some way related to the ongoing personality clash of the two great superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union.
This is when you saw the Soviet Union really get interested in getting like some of these extreme temperatures, like going way up more to Arctic Circle and those areas, to get out a focus on mining, military testing, way up north, and again in inhospitable regions. They use those territories to test, hydrogen bombs and stuff like that. So yeah, that became more and more. Now people are like, oh man, so much of now the Arctic is like, it could be thawing, and all of a sudden Russia is going to have all more of this, a lot more of this land. I've seen real life lore videos, or whoever else was talking about that, how this stuff again could become more relevant in the future.
So if you live on a large, remote, disputed landmass, you might want to prepare yourself for some nuclear weapons testing.
Because the
Yep.
mood on the international stage was...
Be a great place to test
all the countries
nukes.
involved, and several more countries who weren't involved, felt that in order to keep hypothetically peaceful Antarctica actually peaceful, they might have to, at the very least, hold a meeting.
In 1959, they all signed
That's
a
the
big
big
piece
one.
of paper called the Antarctic Treaty.
Antarctica is the common heritage of all mankind. It should be perfectly and peacefully preserved for future generations, literally forever. So, will you all give up your territories?
So they came up with a compromise. All nations who already had colonies on Antarctica could keep them, as long as they never expanded or changed them, and no one was allowed to make any new ones, which meant the map was effectively frozen. Two countries to whom this rule did not apply, by the way, were the USA and USSR, who uniquely were,
Didn't have
and
any.
still are, allowed to make their own new territorial claims on Antarctica if they ever fancy it. Because, big.
In return
Yeah,
for
you got to
being-
remember, the United States and Soviet Union after World War II, it's like those two countries can do whatever they want. They run the world. So if they want to get in Antarctica, they're going to get to Antarctica.
able to hold on to their claims, all the countries agreed to the following rules.
No mining, no military, no nuclear waste, no explosions, no heavy petting.
This meant the countries technically could still own the place, but they weren't
Sure.
allowed to do anything that made it look like they owned the place.
Right.
They both owned it and didn't own it.
Clever.
Really, it's just come down to science. They research science, and it's kind of good. They use it to also learn about climate history because of the kind of the environment and status of the environment gets trapped in ice layers, and they drill ice cores, and they can go through the layers of the ice and understand what climate was like, and that's been a very important part of science as well. But also finding, they found microbes in places that again were so cold and inhospitable that they didn't think like life could really exist there, and they have found those microbes, which has lent itself to the universe possibly again having life in places that we did not think it could.
The Antarctic Treaty is still upheld today, and as a result of its success, it's the world's largest nature reserve. A vast, stunningly beautiful, totally unspoiled wilderness.
Apart from the more than 3,000 scientists in hundreds of research stations from every country you can think of,
And more than 44,000 tourists a year.
Yeah.
tourism in Antarctica is now
Yeah.
more popular than ever as big, huge, polluting cruise liners arrive for people to gawp at the ice sheets.
Everyone is asked to leave Antarctica exactly as they found it, which means everyone's favourite.
I think it'd be great.
Antarctica,
That'd be cool to
you
go.
have to take your poo home with you.
You don't want to look in those.
But perhaps the biggest threat to Antarctica is climate change.
Right.
In the last decade, Antarctic ice melt has led to over 4 millimeters of global sea level rise, resulting in catastrophic consequences across the blah 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 blah.
Right.
The precious Antarctic
I'm glad they
Treaty
just
will
did
expire
that.
in 2048.
We know.
Which sounds like ages away, but actually gets closer every 5 minutes.
Depending on what sort of leaders are in charge or what mood the international community is in, the treaty could end up being scrapped in favour of expensive ice hotels,
Or quad bike racing tracks.
or a Southern Lights themed music festival,
Or
Hey.
huge movie sets for movies
Yeah.
set in the Antarctic.
or perhaps just good old-fashioned resource exploitation and all-out war.
Either way, the human race is going to have to decide what kind of future it envisages for cold, white, barren, faraway territories held together by fragile treaties.
Because Antarctica isn't the only one that's worried.
Oh no. Why sad? Because it's over. You've completed Netflix.
Mark!
Yes, Jay?
I've completed Netflix!
Finished
What?
everything.
There's nothing else to watch on TV!
You mean you've watched every single show on UK Netflix?
Yeah, it took me ages!
Well, why don't you have a look and see what's on American Netflix?
Because we're not in America?
Hashtag
You
ad.
can use Surfshark.
What's
VPNs.
Surfshark?
Heck yeah.
Surfshark is a VPN, an app and a browser extension that lets you virtually
Oh,
place your laptop, phone.
I love how
tablet, or
content creators,
TV
they're way
in
more
any country
creative
in
and
the
put more
world,
effort
so you
into
can
the
access
ads than
content
my
that's not
ads
available in
do.
your country.
I just,
Brits
these
can
guys
use
are
Surfshark,
professionals and they
Americans
make
can
good
use
funny
Netflix,
stuff.
can use
Hopefully
Surfshark
one
to
day I
watch
can
British
get to
Netflix. Australians can use
being
Surfshark
as
to
cool
watch
of an ad
Canadian Amazon
producer
Prime.
as
Germans
these
can use
guys
Surfshark
do.
to watch French Netflix and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Is he?
Can I use
He's
Surfshark
cleaning a
on my
saw.
laptop?
Did you notice
Yes.
that? He's
Can I
cleaning a
also
saw.
use Surfshark on my phone?
Yes.
What, all on the same account?
Yep, Surfshark allows you to have one account on an
And he's
unlimited number of
scrubbing the
devices.
plant.
Is a side effect of using Surfshark that it masks my IP address and helps protect my identity online, making my internet safer?
Yes.
And shoes.
Can I use Surfshark on my Rubik's Cube?
Try it and see what happens.
Washing a
Surfshark.
book.
If you want to try out Surfshark, then just click the link in the description and use the code MAP.
We should wash our
83%
chairs more, huh?
off Surfshark plus an extra 3 months for free. And best of all, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Hey.
So it's basically a free trial. So there's nothing stopping you from just trying it out.
It hasn't made any difference.
Well, it was worth a try.
Okay, thanks for the advice
Washing
about
people.
Surfshark, Mark. Goodbye.
All right, let's talk about Antarctica. All right, these guys are a lot of fun. I like the Map Men stuff. Thanks to everyone that's been telling me to check them out for a while. But yeah, the history of Antarctica again is great because it's like a place where like we haven't killed each other over yet over all these claims. Doesn't mean we won't eventually, but like the treaties are actually like upheld and people are actually holding to them, you know. And again, I know it'd be different if resources were far more easily accessible in a place like Antarctica, but nevertheless, at least it's like some kind of positivity of friendly relations. And like, we need more of that, right? We need more of that. But again, we'll see in future generations how it keeps going when Antarctica does become more relevant with each generation, and hopefully the peace can stay there. Anyway, they went over, a little bit of the history, but there was definitely more, when it comes to, I wish they would have talked maybe a little more about Admiral Byrd. That story, again, is interesting because it really brought to the world a lot more knowledge about it, and also made it a lot more mysterious because he went and cataloged it and said, there's a nation out there that when you cross into it, it's bigger than the United States, and like it got people interested in it. It's also been kind of interesting that a lot of people have used it as for conspiracies. I know like flat earthers and stuff, they talk about Admiral Byrd, his findings, and to say that like, Antarctica's got like way more of this land like beyond what we think, and it's just like extends out, and there's more like even other continents. If you, but yeah, the conspiracists have used that too. But again, it's still just it's still a mysterious area in some way, but it has been great for science, as I was telling you earlier about. They've been able to understand not just climate change, but also like climate history and scientific history, origins of life and things. So hopefully, again, the peace keeps coming and it keeps being useful. All right, and with that, you guys, the video link again is down below. Make sure you support them. If you liked what we saw here and you stayed to the end of the video, hopefully you want to watch more videos. I got tons of commentary on different history things. And if you also are interested in connecting some other ways, we go down below in the description. If you are a gamer, check out my gaming channel, Mr. Terry Gaming, over on YouTube, or Mr. Terry History over on Twitch. Also Patreon, Discord, Facebook now, Instagram, bunch of links to all that stuff to keep connected and to have more fun with history here on the internet. All right, and with that, we'll see you next time. Bye.